appears that your dua has not been responded to, it has been responded to, but in ways you might not appreciate or realize. If you give up the dua, it will not be responded. It's that simple. This does not mean, however, that we don't pray to Allah to respond to our dua quickly. Oh Allah, for example, a person out of work, he prays, oh Allah, give me a job quickly. It is not haram to ask for this quickly. It is haram to be quick, in the sense you give up dua. But if you want something to respond to quickly, that's not haram. The Prophet ﷺ prayed, oh Allah, grant us rain immediately and not after some time. We want it now. So it is allowed to ask for something immediately. What is prohibited is to be hasty in the response. Yes, ask immediately. When it doesn't come immediately, be patient. Be patient and continue to make dua for as long as Allah gives you life. Never give up dua. Even if you don't see the response to your dua, Allah is responding to it as long as you make dua. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes man in the Quran, وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ عَجُولًا. Man is always hasty. Man is always, he wants to do things quickly. He wants to see the result immediately. That is not necessarily the case. You can make dua for years and years. Zakaria made dua for decades, until he became an old man. His hair became white. His wife became barren. And he keeps on making dua, oh Allah, don't leave me without a hair, give me a son. Until he cannot physically have a son. And he makes dua, he doesn't give up. So much so, he got so old that when the angel finally came, he says, how can I have a son? I'm too old. My wife is barren. The same Zakaria that's making dua for 40, 50, 60, 70 years. Since he's a young man, he's praying, oh Allah, grant me a son. He never gives up. This is the persistence that is required. So much so that when the response does come, he is the first one to reject it. How can I have a son? I am too old. My hair has gone white and feeble. My bones are feeble. My wife is now barren. So Allah responds, كَذَلِكَ. We have already decreed this, that you're going to have a son and you're going to call him Yahya. No one before has been called by this. And so Allah granted him a son. And the same with Ibrahim, the same with Nuh. 950 years. Rejection of his people. When he makes dua, finally Allah responds to the dua. So, be patient. Like we said, patience doesn't mean that you don't want the dua responded to now. You want it responded to now. But when it is not responded to now, you do not give up dua. You continue to make dua. Until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills your death. You never give up dua. Yet another precondition for dua is that, and this is common sense, you have to ask for things that are good. It is not allowed. It is haram, and it is a type of kufr to ask for things that are haram. Because you are making fun of Allah. Oh Allah, allow me to do zina. A'udhu billah. This is kufr. You're making fun of Allah. Oh Allah, give me wine and alcohol to drink. A'udhu billah. This is a type of kufr. Obviously it makes sense. When you ask for something that is permissible and halal. That is why the Prophet ﷺ said, the dua of one of you will be responded to as long as he does not ask for a sin or for breaking the ties of kinship. When you ask for a sin, or when you ask for breaking the ties of kinship, breaking your silatul rahim, which is one of the greatest forms of ibadah to fulfill the silatul rahim, when you ask that it breaks, then you're asking for a sin and Allah will not respond to that. On the contrary, you will be punished for that dua. So when you ask, it has to be for something halal. Yet another precondition is that even though what you're asking for is halal, you have to have a halal intention for asking it. For example, money is halal. If you want money to do something haram with, you're asking for the halal, but you want something to do haram with it. You want money to, for example, own a liquor store, or go out and spend it on haram. So you're asking, oh Allah, grant me money. And Allah knows your intentions are to do something haram. Once again, this is not allowed. Because the intention to do an evil could become an evil. The intention to do an evil could become an evil. Therefore, what you ask must be halal, and the intentions that you ask it for must also be halal and permissible. And that is why the Prophet ﷺ said, when a person visits the sick person and says to the sick person, oh Allah, cure your servant, so and so, because then he will wound the enemy and walk to the prayer. This is a dua that we should say when we go to the sick. Look at why we ask for him to be cured. So that he can bring glory to the Muslim Ummah and he can worship Allah. Cure him so that he can wound the enemy. We don't want a sick person if we have an army going on. We don't need a sick person. Cure him so that he can wound the enemy and that he can walk to the prayer and worship you. Why are we asking for his cure which is halal? For something which is noble and permissible, which is the worship of Allah. This hadith demonstrates this principle. Is that you ask for something halal for a halal reason. For a good reason, for a noble reason. Yet another precondition of dua, and this is one unfortunately the majority of Muslims do not practice, is to have an attentive heart and soul, to pay attention to the dua, to think about what you are asking and sincerely want it. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Ud'u Allah wa antum muqinuna bil ijaba." Make dua to Allah while you are in a state of yaqeen. Muqinun is the same root, yaqeen, that Allah will respond to you. And know, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Wa'lamu," know that Allah does not respond to the dua from an inattentive heart. You know the du'as that we have memorized since childhood and we just pray them continuously without thinking? These are the types of du'as Allah does not respond to. Because they are without spirit. You have the body but you don't have the spirit. You have done the actions but you don't have the spirituality behind those actions. Just like the salah, when someone prays without thinking, pecking up and down like a chicken, the Prophet ﷺ said that a person might not be rewarded at all for his prayer, or even a tenth of the prayer he will get the reward, because he did not have khushu'. Same applies to the dua. When we just memorize phrases, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً, and we don't think about it, then this dua Allah does not respond to it. As the Prophet ﷺ said, know that Allah does not respond to the dua that comes from a heart that does not pay attention. These memorized phrases are of no use. Memorize them, yes, but when you state them, think about what you're saying. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. You say it from your heart. You say it thinking about what you're saying, wanting what you are saying, and not just verbatim, not just like a parrot. Allah does not respond to these type of du'as because it is not a du'a. It is not an appeal from the heart. It is just a verbal parroting of phrases. Like Al-Nawawi said, Al-Hafiz Al-Nawawi, he said that the purpose of du'a is to have an attentive heart towards Allah. This is the purpose of du'a, is to have an attentive, to develop khushu' of Allah. Therefore, how can a du'a be accepted when there is no attentive heart behind it? So this is yet another precondition of du'a. Another precondition of du'a is that one's food and drink, one's earnings be halal. One of the fundamental primary factors that one's du'a is not accepted is when one eats and drinks and earns haram. And the opposite is true. When one eats and drinks and earns halal, this is one of the strongest ways that he can be verified and assured of his du'a being accepted. The Prophet ﷺ said, Ya ayyuhan nas, O mankind, Allah is At-Tayyib. One of the names of Allah is At-Tayyib. He is the pure, the holy, the one who is beautiful, At-Tayyib. And Allah only accepts that which is At-Tayyib. He only accepts the pure. You cannot be a Robin Hood stealing money from the rich and then giving it to the poor. Allah will not accept this from you, because you are stealing. This is not your right to steal. Allah is At-Tayyib and only accepts that which is pure, and He has commanded the believers what He has commanded the messengers, for He said, O messengers, eat from the pure foods and do rights. And then He said, the Prophet ﷺ said, that He mentioned a traveler